Monster in the Closet. The house was a masterpiece of suburban camouflage, eggshell siding, a manicured lawn of Kentucky bluegrass, and the rhythmic, comforting sound of a sprinkler system that kept the world green and quiet. Inside, David played the role of the devoted father with practiced ease. He flipped pancakes on Saturday mornings, checked the tire pressure on his wife's car, and tucked his 6-year-old son, Leo, into bed with a tenderness that felt entirely real. But every night, after the house settled into its rhythmic creaks, David would stand in the hallway, his eyes fixed on the slatted door of Leo's bedroom closet. Behind that door, buried under piles of Lego sets and winter coats, lived a secret that smelled of stagnant water and old copper. It was something alive, something intelligent, and something that had been growing steadily larger for years. The accidents started small. A family photo shattered in the middle of the night. The cat vanished, leaving behind only a tuft of fur and a faint, clawed indentation in the hallway carpet. Then came the whispers. David found Leo sitting cross-legged on the floor of his room, talking to the darkness behind the slats. "He says he knows you, Daddy," Leo whispered, his eyes wide with a strange, eerie calm. "He says he's been waiting for you to come home since before I was born." The air in the house began to change, growing heavy and thick with the scent of David's own past sins, the hit and run he'd walked away from a decade ago, the lives he'd stepped over to build this beautiful, fragile life. He realized the creature wasn't just a squatter in his home. It was a guest he had invited in. It fed on his silence, gaining mass every time David smiled through a lie. The climax came on a storm-drenched Tuesday. David heard a low, wet tearing sound from the bedroom. He burst in to find the closet door hanging off its hinges, and a shape, massive, oily, and shifting like liquid shadow, coiled at the foot of Leo's bed. It didn't have a face, yet David recognized every contour of its malice. It was the physical weight of every decision he had ever suppressed, given bone and sinew by his own cowardice. The twist was the mirror he couldn't look away from. As David lunged forward to protect his son, the monster didn't strike. It mimicked him. When David raised his hands in a defensive crouch, the creature mirrored the gesture. When David's heart hammered against his ribs in terror, the monster's chest thrummed with the same frantic rhythm. The monster wasn't a separate being. It was the father within himself, the dark, impulsive man he had tried to bury beneath the suburban veneer. It was a manifestation of his guilt that had finally outgrown the space he'd allotted for it. To contain the creature, David realized he didn't need a weapon. He needed a confession. Only by dragging his past sins into the light and admitting who he truly was, could the monster ever be pulled back into the shadows of his soul. The house wasn't being haunted, it was being balanced. David fell to his knees, the polished hardwood floor feeling like ice beneath him. The creature loomed, its surface roiling with images of that rain-slicked road 10 years ago. The flickering streetlight, and the crumpled bicycle he had left in the ditch. It wasn't just a shadow, it was a living record. "I did it," David choked out, the words feeling like shards of glass in his throat. Leo stood by the window, his small face pale in the lightning flashes. "Leo, listen to me. I'm not the man you think I am." As the confession spilled out, the panic of that night, the years of carefully constructed deception, the silent deals he'd made with his own conscience, the creature began to change. It didn't vanish, but its edges softened. The oily, aggressive mass began to translucent, the terrifying weight of it lifting from the room. It wasn't shrinking so much as it was integrating. To contain the creature, David realized he didn't need a weapon. He needed a confession. Only by dragging his past sins into the light and admitting who he truly was, could the monster ever be pulled back into the shadows of his soul? The house wasn't being haunted. It was being balanced. When he finished, the room was silent except for the rain against the glass. The creature was gone, but David felt a new weight in its place, a heavy, honest burden that he would carry every time he looked his son in the eye. He reached out a trembling hand, and this time, when Leo took it, the shadows in the corner of the room stayed still. The monster was still there, tucked deep within the closets of his mind, but it no longer had the power to break the door down.